Elections and Campaign Finance Subcommittee to order. Clerk, please open the board and take the roll. Members, please vote if you're present. Do not vote if you're not present. Please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, there are 6 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Do any members have any personal orders before we begin? Yes, Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 2 guests here with me today. Actually, a third had to leave early, but Debbie Young and Irene Kelly. Also, Tony Zavison was with them earlier. He's back in the room. They are residents of my district in the Glencliff Woodbine neighborhood, also known as Flat Rock affectionately. And since this is election and finance, I'll say that they live in my largest precinct, and it's put me over the top in multiple elections. So I'm glad to have them up here today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else?
Residents.
Welcome. Today we have 10 bills on our final regular calendar and special calendar. And due to we're going to move number 2 up to number 1 real quickly due to some rearranging of appointments and people have to be at. First up will be with no objections. First up, and Mr. Leatherwood is here. First up is HB 1073 by Garrett. Motion. We have a motion. We have a second. Let's see. We have any amendments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The amendment code that I'd like to place on the bill, which makes the bill, is ending in 5588.
That's what we have. I have a motion second to apply the amendment to the bill. Any objections? Seeing none. All those in favor of attaching 5588 to the bill, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The bill amendment is attached to the amended bill. Please tell us about your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The House Bill 1073 as amended intends to mirror our federal guidance on door knocking campaign with our state law. Currently, Tennessee is out of sync with the FEC on what we can do regarding coordination with canvassing for door knocking purposes. So this bill does one simple thing, and it simply allows coordination regarding door knocking operations with any political action committee or state candidates, permitting the two to coordinate their door knocking canvassing programs. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to take any questions.
Seems pretty simple what you're doing, just matching it up. Any questions on the bill? Seeing none, let's open, Madam Clerk, Mr. Clerk, excuse me. They've changed personnel on me. Open up the board for voting. All those in favor vote yes, opposed nay. Please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 7 ayes and 0 noes.
Seeing that, your bill passes on to state and local full.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Next, we'll go back to item number 1 by the distinguished Mr. Doggett. We have a motion and second on the bill. Just a moment. That is 0581. And we have a motion second on the bill. Do you have any amendments?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. I do have an amendment. The amendment code is 6076, and it does make the bill.
That's what we have. Any opposition to putting the amendment on the bill? Seeing none, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor of attaching 6076 to the bill, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Amendment is to the bill. Please tell us about your amended bill.
Well, thank you very much. First, I'd like to say I miss being with you all. I enjoyed the last 2 years serving on this committee. We did a lot of really good things. I really enjoyed it. And so it's an honor to be back before you today. This bill, members, as amended, provides more transparency with online campaign contributions in our state elections. It requires online contribution or campaign donation platforms to register as a vendor with the Tennessee Registry of Elections. It also will require that the CVV, which is on your debit or credit cards, to be used on any contribution that is made through an online platform. If there is an investigation from the registry, these vendors will have 10 days to provide that information regarding any online contributions that may be in question. It also incorporates the identity theft statute if someone uses a credit or debit card to make a political contribution to a vendor without their knowledge. And finally, the legislation would place the same limits on contributions from online platforms that we have currently for PAC contributions. If you'll remember, when we did our ethics training at the beginning of this year, the Bureau, as part of their presentation, they kind of alluded to that there might be something coming down the pike that dealt with this, and this is what it is. And so I've worked with the FBI, the TBI, our friends at the Bureau of Elections or Ethics, and so I'm happy to answer any questions.
We, Mr. Powell, you've asked a question. We also have some speakers from the Bureau. Do you want to ask your questions now or after our speakers?
If I could ask it now, they can
Okay.
address. I guess my question is, we can direct this to Bureau, but being a Democrat, a lot of us use a service called Act Blue to accept online contributions. Would they have to register as a vendor in this legislation? I'm not sure what the Republican, equivalent of that is, but and if they could speak to that, I'd appreciate that. Or the sponsor or both.
Or both, yeah.
Go ahead, Ms. Doggett.
Yes, any online contribution platform, if that Act Blue or whatever is out there, they would have to register with the Bureau.
Any other? If not, no objections. So we'll go out of session and bring up the Bureau. Please check in and give us your names and who you're with.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Bill Young, the Executive Director of the Bureau of Ethics and Campaign Finance. Seated to my left is Lauren Topping, our General Counsel. Seated to my right is Assistant Director Lance Frizzell. I'm happy to appear before you today, and I appreciate Representative Doggett and Senator Briggs bringing this legislation. We worked closely with them. It's really their idea. They brought us in, as well as the TBI and FBI. Basically, what I understand this legislation is intended to do is increase transparency by ensuring that the information that's given to the registry on campaign finance statements is accurate, that there's nothing going on as far as not having the correct information or intentionally putting wrongful information on there. So it's also intended to prevent fraud and improve the accuracy of the information that's given to us. And answer your question, Representative Powell, my understanding in reading the bill, it would apply not only to Act Blue, but to WinRed and to PayPal, Venmo, any other collector of information. As you all know, being candidates for the General Assembly, you're required to collect certain information on campaign contributions and campaign expenditures. This is to ensure that those vendors that others might use or you might use, make sure they provide the correct information to you so you can report it accurately on the statements that are filed with us. So again, I commend the sponsors. It appears to be good legislation and does follow up on what we talked about in our ethics training earlier this year. I'm open for any questions you might have or members of
Powell?
staff.
A follow-up question to that, and appreciate you addressing my question. Are any other states doing this? And then I guess my second question is, we'll just go ahead and ask it now. Would those vendors be subject to an audit by the Bureau? Would you cross-reference, or you have the ability to cross-reference what's being reported with what they're actually showing?
Good questions, Representative Powell. Again, this legislation really came from the offices of State Rep and Senator Briggs, but I understand in our meetings, they did reference legislation in other states that is similar to this legislation to ensure full transparency and also accurate information. So I believe other states, they can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe other states have pursued this path. As far as audits, the registry has the ability to audit those who appear in front of it. I'm assuming that if they register with us, if there was something that indicated there was a problem on the campaign finance side, then the registry would have full power to audit them if they suspected a campaign violation.
One last question. This is more just for people that might be listening. I know some of these groups take fees. How is that, say if they take a fee off the top? I know like PayPal does, for example. How is that reported? If someone donated $100 to me, I was fortunate enough to get a $100 donation. Would I report that full $100 from that person and then reference that fee as a fee from that vendor? How does that take place?
Actually, as I understand it, General Counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, let's say it's $100 and a $5 fee. That entire amount, $105, is contribution to your campaign because the contributor is paying the fee for you.
Yes,
And
it depends slightly on the way that the service does it. So say the contributor pays or does $100 contribution and then pays the fee on top of that, then you have to report the full amount as a contribution. However, if the contributor were to pay only $100 and then the fee comes out of that $100, then you would report the full $100 contribution and also an expenditure to the company for the amount of the fee.
Not change that at all.
No, sir.
Mr. Bricken.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of an operational question along those same veins, and I've never received an online company contribution, so I don't know. Do they provide the candidates a list of everyone that have paid enough with mailing addresses so you can populate the campaign report website?
Representative Bricken, I'm like you. I've never done it, but when I've seen it done through our office, they do that on the request of the candidate. They can provide that information to you if you request it. Am I right on that?
It also depends on the servicer that you're using. Some servicers provide more information than others. And then this would be particularly designed to ensure that that information that they're giving the candidate is accurate and that it's not being a fictitious name that was given to the servicer and then passed on to the candidate.
So this legislation really is intended to ensure that they collect that information because it's the candidate's responsibility at the end of the day to report it to us, and we're going to hold the candidate responsible. But we want to make sure these vendors are collecting the correct information that they give to you as a candidate.
And kind of an unrelated question, but I always like to, y'all's online reporting system has its issues. And I was just curious, so where in the future can we expect an upgrade in the system?
Representative Brett, I honest to goodness hope no one accuses me of paying you to ask that question. We have, as the chairman knows and members of this committee know, we have a bill that's pending currently with the General Assembly that includes a component to allow us to obtain funds to begin the upgrade of the system. And we've been talking to contractors in other states for 2 years about upgrading our system. It's 20 to 30 years old, and your comment is exactly right. It's showing its age. It needs to be upgraded. We do need the funding in order to do that. The state of Georgia, a couple of 3 years ago, upgraded their system, used a contractor. We've talked about Georgia and the contractor about it. Cost them $3 million to upgrade the system, $500,000 a year to maintain the system. So that's the kind of funding we're talking about. I'm pleased to let you know that we have talked to the F&A commissioner, to both speakers and to various members of this General Assembly about the need. And I understand the members of this General Assembly are considering that need, and hopefully it will be met at the end of this session and we can begin the process of upgrading a system that, as you point out, badly needs to be upgraded. Excellent question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more questions on the bill? Otherwise, we'll go back into session. Thank you for testifying. Your knowledge is always appreciated. We'll go back into session. Back to you, sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for lady and gentlemen that came and spoke on it. This, excuse me, this bill is over a year in the making. I've read some articles over the last 2 years about maybe some of these online platforms where individuals were showing up as donors on these online platforms and had no idea that their identity had been used because they never did make these contributions. Not saying that it's the platforms themselves that are doing this, but it's somebody somewhere out there last week I saw a video, a little news clip where an individual was approached and where they had given, forget how many thousands of dollars, but they had no idea that their name had even showed up in there. And so providing transparency is a big part of it, but also there's something that's called smurfing, where you can make a contribution under someone else's name. And it makes it a lot easier with online platforms. And so that was kind of the goal, was to make sure that, and also that we're getting all the information that we need, because it ultimately falls back on us as candidates when we accept contributions. If someone gives me a check or mails me a check, I can track down that information that I need for reporting purposes. But sometimes these platforms, because every state is unique, and we certainly are unique in Tennessee as with some of the reporting requirements that we have to have and some of that information, these platforms may not capture all that information that we need. And so when it comes down to time for filing our reports that we have to do with the Bureau, and they come back and say, well, you're missing information here or there, or, sometimes we have to give back contributions. Who do we give it back to if we receive it through an online platform? And so some of these things are just meant to help shore it up so that we're getting all the information that we need, and we can verify that these people that the vendor can verify that these are actual people that are making these contributions on our behalf through these online platforms.
Mr. Moon,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move previous question.
any objection? Moving to previous question. Seeing none, please open the board and we will vote. All those in favor of the bill vote yes. Opposed, vote no. I voted, but it's not registering. We have a glitch. It's all Doggett's fault. He broke the machine.
The vendor did register.
That's right.
Try one more time.
All
Do we
right.
have a pop-up?
Still ain't, yep, I voted yes. It still ain't registering. We may have to go back to the old fashioned way.
Yeah.
It's time to call the clerk's office.
I have,
You want to take the roll?
I got fiscal roll.
Okay.
How did this not happen with Garrett's bill?
That's a very good question. All right, let's.
Going out of session confused the program.
All right, for House Bill 581, let's
Yes.
just do it manually here. Representatives Bricken. Bricken votes aye. Howell. Howell votes aye. Leatherwood. Leatherwood votes aye. Moon. Moon votes aye. Powell. Powell votes no. Wright. Wright votes aye. Chairman Rudd.
Aye.
Chairman Rudd votes aye. The total vote is 6 ayes and 1 no.
With that being said, if the bill moves on approved to state and local committee full.
Thank y'all very much.
Is she in the room? Okay, next up is item number 3, HB 1159 by Representative Lynn. I thought we had an amendment on this. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have no amendments, do you?
I do not.
Okay. Please tell us about your bill.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank this committee. You've passed a similar bill, a very similar bill, and you even amended a little bit of this bill on that bill. So I'm just really hoping that that other bill will pass. It has a small fiscal note. It's in the Finance Committee. So I did want to just come here and tell you we're still interested in this subject. Hopefully that other one will pass, and ask you, can we roll this to the second calendar of 2026? And
No.
hopefully we'll.
If you want to do that, no objections or any objections. If not, we're at the sponsor's request, we'll roll 1159 by land to the second calendar of 2026.
Thank you, sir.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. It is rolled. Oh, and, well, we did have a speaker, but they don't need to speak. They can, because the bill is with, we're on. All right, number 4. Yeah, item number 4, HB 0855 by Reeves, and he is here. We have a motion. We have a second on the bill. And I believe you have an amendment.
Yes, sir, I do. It is 6387.
That's what we have. I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Motion, second on the amendment. You want the amendment on the bill?
Yes, sir, I do.
Does it make the bill?
It does make the bill.
Okay. All those in favor say aye, attaching 6387 to the bill. Opposed, nay. It is on the bill. Please tell us about your amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 855 ensures that the primary election format is extended to county-level partisan office nominations rather than party conventions. While statewide and U.S. congressional offices were already required to use primaries, this bill extends that same standard of voter participation and transparency to key local offices. And it is important to note that certain counties are grandfathered in to continue their use of a party convention if they desire to do so. This bill ensures voter access in local partisan elections. It strengthens election integrity and transparency. It protects key voter groups and their ability to participate, and it balances local flexibility with some clear standards. And with that, I am open to questions.
Let me ask you a question. You said the grandfather in, I believe, is it still, what, is it the last 2 elections or what, how far does the grandfathering go back?
Yes, sir. It goes back to 22 and 24. If a county used a party convention in either one of those, they would be allowed to do so in the future. If they decide at some point to not use that, then it would go to a primary.
All right. There are questions on the bill and what they're trying to do. Let's see, the only thing, of course, I've told you, I've traditionally not supported, excuse me, before I say Chair,
No, you go ahead.
Mr. Powell, go ahead.
You go ahead and finish that thought.
I was going to say, I traditionally hadn't supported this because I wanted the party to be able to choose, and I think we were interfering in the party process, but not everyone thinks the same way I do on all things, which is somewhat of a surprise to me sometimes. But also I think this has probably been fostered by a few counties having some organizational issues, and I just kind of don't like changing state law to solve a local issue. I know back, I think it was 2008 or 2010, probably 2008, right at kind of the height of the Tea Party movement, Rutherford County was taken over by outside groups, and while the regular party was kind of feuding over a local issue, and then they got back together and took it back over. And they actually, for the first time, they actually had a caucus because we had never nominated. We weren't as Republicans, still aren't as Williamson County, but we nominated a full slate and everybody won that year. And I remember they came to me and wanted me to run for extra Ds. And I said, I couldn't beat the Democrat that year. And I didn't run. If I'd put my name on it, I would have been elected. But the only thing that really concerned me when we talk, there's 2 things. Small counties that currently run as independents, they will not be able to, in many cases, they don't want to upset the apple cart, and they've never had a Republican primary, and they don't want to call it and charge the local small counties a lot of money. So they get feedback from members on that. And the other things is sometimes there is an emergency that the party has, like on a judge is a vacancy, or they miss the filing deadline. And sometimes calling a caucus in smaller counties can put someone on the ballot that they normally weren't going to because the county party missed the deadline. So I'll bring these questions up so you can address those.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. Yes. So we have addressed the small county issue by making sure that we are grandfathering in counties that have used those recently. Also, I note that the smallest county that at least our party chairman has told me has used a party convention is Wayne County. There are 19 or 20 Other counties smaller than that have traditionally used a primary. Also, you've addressed emergency situations. This bill does not touch 2-13-204, which allows for a party convention in the case of a death or a withdrawal. So this bill does not touch that.
Any other questions on the board of the member? If not, we have, we have no speakers on this. That was the other bill. With no one to ask any questions, anybody opposed to calling the vote? If not, open the board for a vote. Has it been, let's try to see what we're going to do here. Everybody for the bill, vote yes, vote no if you're opposed. It still ain't working. All right, just call a roll, Mr.
All
Clerk.
righty. Representatives Bricken. Bricken votes aye. Howell. Howell votes aye. Leatherwood. Leatherwood votes aye. Moon. Moon votes aye. Powell. Powell votes no. Wright. Wright votes aye. Chairman Rudd.
No.
Chairman Rudd votes no. The total is 5 ayes and 2 noes.
Bill passes out to State and Local Full Government Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Thank you.
Representative Towns is here, so the number 5.
Let me get over to the next one. My notes are kind of getting like government. They get more complicated with each year. Item number 5, HB 0929 by Towns. I do not see him in the room. We'll roll that to the hill of today's calendar. Item number 6, HB 1267 by Representative Johnson has been taken off notice at the request of the sponsor. And next up is item number 7, HB 1110 by Representative Salinas. That has been taken off notice at request of the sponsor. Item number 8 by me. I will pass the gavel to Vice Chairman Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next on the agenda is item number 8, House Bill 456 by Chairman Rudd.
Thank you, Ms. I have a amendment that makes the bill.
Motion.
Have a motion and second on the amendment. All in favor of adding the amendment to the bill, say aye.
Motion second on the bill.
Need a motion on the bill.
Motion.
Have a motion and a second on the bill. Do I have a renewed motion and second on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is attached. Chairman Rudd explained House Bill 456 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. This is a simple bill. We found a loophole in the law when it's dealing with corporations and PACs, and this is closing that small loophole. What this is, this legislation is written to close that loophole in state law that currently allows corporations to advertise and conduct mail campaigns to encourage voters to support or oppose a candidate without disclosing who is paying for that mailer or advertisement. And this would close that loophole so that they have to put the disclaimer. And that is, they would be treated just like a PAC. So that is what the bill does.
Representative Powell for question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. Sometimes there are bills up here and we might not be up for election, but different corporations will take it upon themselves to go after certain members because they don't like their stance. I know, for example, I'm not saying this happened, but you could see like wine and grocery stores was a very contentious issue that I was up here for. if a corporation did that, would they be subject to this, or is this more just for the actual election cycle?
It would, Mr. Powell, it would cover that. This isn't just for election cycle. If they were to put out mail or advertising that actually encourage people to vote for or against you, they would have to disclose that.
One follow-up question, does that include like online, they spent money on online advertising, social media, ads?
Yes, we can, if there's any objection from legal, but yes, it's minor, any communications or advertisement, whether in printed or online, would have to have a disclaimer.
Are there other questions on the bill as amended? Hearing no objection to the question, we are to vote. Are we still voting by roll? We're voting on House Bill 456 as amended. All those in favor of House Bill 456, moving on to state and local, full vote yes, opposed vote no. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Representatives Bricken. Bricken votes aye. Howell. Howell votes aye. Leatherwood.
Aye.
Leatherwood votes aye. Moon. Moon votes aye. Powell. Powell votes aye. Wright.
Aye.
Wright votes aye. Chairman Rudd.
Aye.
Chairman Rudd votes aye. The total is 7 ayes and 0 noes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The ayes have it. House Bill 456 moves on to State and Local Government Committee. Next on the agenda is item number 9, House Bill 457 by Chairman Rudd. Chairman Rudd? Motion. Have a motion and second. Chairman Rudd, is there an amendment?
Yes, 6723. Excuse me, 6273. I'm getting tired.
Does the amendment rewrite the bill?
Yes, it does.
Do I hear a motion on the amendment? I hear a motion and second on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Chairman Rudd, explain how House Bill 456 works as amended.
Thank you. This is a omnibus cleanup bill where we're cleaning up some things and code that need to be cleaned up and addressing some issues. The legislation aligns the latest date a county election commission can count any provisional ballots to the third Monday after each election, potentially requiring one less meeting before the election can be certified, therefore saving the county money. It clarifies when notice of provisional counting boards must be published and allows the notice to combine with the notice listing the election day polling places and hours that is already required, which would also save money to the local. It specifically prohibits internet voting. This bill explicitly prohibits any marked ballot from being submitted online and any voting machine from being connected to the internet, which is our current practice, but we'll put it in code. The legislation strengthens voter list maintenance by restoring the ability to use a voter's inactivity and failure to respond to a notice as an indicator that the voter may have moved. The option had been removed from the Tennessee law when the Sixth Circuit struck down the similar law in Ohio, but the process was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. Therefore, we're putting it back into law. It clarifies that in order for a registration to be considered as an in-person registration, the applicant must be present, a valid photo ID or verification of their address. It clarifies that the administrator of elections may only print a voter registration card and hand it to an applicant when the voter has presented a verification of a residential address. All other voter registration cards must be mailed. And finally, it aligns the deadline to purge voter registration records based on systematic list maintenance activities with the latest date allowed by federal law. And we also have, if need be, if you have any questions, we also have Director Goins here that can answer any questions on why this is needed and how it's saving the county money.
Are there questions of the sponsor, Representative Powell?
Thank you. If you could you speak to the proof of residency? I see here it says allow show ID or proof of residency. What would be a valid form to show the proof of residency?
Let me get down to
Chairman
there.
Rudd.
Thank you. I'm getting more in the weeds here. All right. Let me read to see if it answers your question here. When the notice of provisional counting must be published, oh, let's see, that's not it. All right, except are you talking about the acceptability of photo IDs the same as required in person? The verification of residential address includes, but is not limited to, a Tennessee driver's license, a residential lease agreement, a utility bill, or other document bearing the applicant's residential address,
Representative Powell.
which is what it currently is, I believe. It stays the same.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification there. We've got a lot of like apartment communities in my district, and we have a high turnover there. My other question is, can you speak to this purging of voters? Are we going to end up purging more voters or less, or is this, you can kind of explain that process? I'd appreciate it.
Well,
Chairman Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, the state statute says 90 days before a federal election, which is the same as federal law. If a federal law is amended to allow for a later deadline, this change would allow the later deadline to be used without needing an additional amendment. Purges the voters who have moved, died, or been convicted of a felony will continue to be allowed at any time. So this brings it in line with what federal law is now.
Representative Powell, are there other questions? Is there an objection to the question? Hearing no objection, we're voting on House Bill 457, moving on to state and local full. In favor, vote aye. Opposed, vote no. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Bricken. Bricken votes aye. Howell. Howell votes aye. Leatherwood. Leatherwood votes aye. Moon. Moon votes aye. Powell. Powell votes no. Wright.
Aye.
Wright votes aye. Chairman Rudd.
Aye.
Chairman Rudd votes aye. Mr. Chairman, your total is 6 ayes and 1 no.
The ayes have it. House Bill 457 moves on to State and Local Government Committee. We will now return to the regular agenda.
He's got one more.
Oh, one more. I need to turn the page and say, item number 10, House Bill 458 is off notice. Is that good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is he here? We have just received an email from Representative Towns on his bill HB 0929. He has asked it to be put on the first road to the first calendar of 2006. 26, excuse me. Is that correct? I'd have the clerk coming in running if I said that. Any opposed? Seeing no opposition, that is rolled. All right. And let's see. Well, first of all, since we've already, first of all, I want to say thank you for everybody. Most of you are new to the committee, and I hope you've enjoyed it. It's we have really, over the course of the last 6 years, we have really tightened the election laws up, and made this the #1 most secure election in the entire nation, and we're proud of that 3 years in a row. And the person, while all the legislators are deeply responsible for that, the Secretary of State and Director Goins and the audience has led the way and has responded to our concerns and needs and has done an excellent job at ensuring that Tennessee's election process. And I remember it was just a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a conference call between President Trump and governors. And the governor of Louisiana asked the president, what can we do to strengthen Louisiana's elections? And his response was, do it like Tennessee does it. They do it right. And that man right there is leading the way. So thank you, Mark Goins. Thank you for all you do.
Get that guy right.
Well, is there any other? Yes, Mr. Howe.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm new to the committee, and it's been a pleasant experience. And it's my personal opinion, for what that amounts to, that our chairman is probably one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to election law that I've ever had a chance to know. And it's a pleasure to serve on your committee, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. As long as I can find my place on my notes. Any other? Mr. Powell.
Chairman, I just want to thank you. Obviously, I'm the only minority member on this committee, but I appreciate you guys putting up with all my questions and really appreciate your fairness and letting me ask those questions, not just to you, but everybody on the committee. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You continue in a long tradition. We've had excellent Democrat members of the committee through the years, and they've all been thoughtful and asked questions and have been good members. And the one thing I've always liked about this committee is it seems like everyone has always worked pretty well together and good communications, and we just want what's best for our election process. So with that being said, if there's no other questions, since we have already taken care of content of HB 0139, we will not be taking that up on the special calendar because it was addressed in my bill. Before we close, do any members have any announcements or personal orders? Seeing none, with that, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn to the call of the chair. We have a motion to adjourn. No objections. We are adjourned to the call of the chair.